You're not distracted. You're making a conscious choice to escape from your authentic self every second. Imagine waking up one day to discover you've forgotten how to tie your shoes, or how to multiply two-digit numbers, or even how to read a map. Now imagine this has already happened. To you. To all of us. This isn't a nightmare. It's the reality of the digital age. I'm sure this scenario feels familiar. You pick up your phone to check the weather, and 5 minutes later you find yourself in an endless TikTok or Instagram scroll. You glance at the clock. 40 minutes have passed. And the strangest part? You don't even remember opening these apps. Your fingers did it automatically. On autopilot. Or another situation. You're at the checkout counter. The cashier says, "That'll be $50. You hand over a $100 bill, and suddenly, mental freeze. How much change should you get back? $50 minus 16.54 fours. You feel your brain overheating like an old laptop running a demanding game. You reach for your phone and calculator, while simultaneously feeling a strange embarrassment. Can't I subtract these simple numbers in my head? But you're not alone. We're all in this situation, and it's not a coincidence. The world around us has changed faster than our brains could adapt. Just 2 generations ago, finding information required going to the library, flipping through encyclopedias, taking notes, memorizing. The process of acquiring knowledge was complex, slow, and required effort. And now? Hey Siri, what's 379 multiplied by 248? And instantly you get the answer, 94,012. And that's terrifying, because our brain functions on a simple principle: use it or lose it. What we don't practice atrophies, gradually, imperceptibly, and irreversibly. This isn't ADHD, it's not an attention disorder, and it's not short attention spans, as pseudo-experts love to repeat. It's something much deeper. Nicholas Copernicus once revolutionized our understanding of the cosmos when he declared that Earth revolves around the sun, not vice versa. Today, we're experiencing a similar revolution, but in understanding the human brain. Our brain isn't a static information processing machine. It's a plastic organ that constantly changes depending on how we use it. Neurobiologist Michael Merzenich calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to restructure its neural connections in response to new tasks. But plasticity is a double-edged sword. The brain adapts not only to beneficial habits, but also to harmful ones. When we replace basic cognitive functions with technology, what happens is what I call digital amputation. We voluntarily cut off parts of our mental abilities, outsourcing them to machines. The problem isn't that technology helps us. The problem is that we delegate functions we used to perform ourselves. And our brain, which evolved over millions of years to solve problems, remember information, and navigate space, suddenly finds itself unemployed. Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman divides our thinking into 2 systems. System 1, fast, automatic, intuitive, and System 2, slow, analytical, requiring effort. Technology increasingly takes over our System 2 functions, leaving us with only quick, impulsive reactions. And now the scariest part: what happens to a muscle you don't use? It atrophies. The same happens to your brain. Let's look at a typical day of a modern American. 7:06 a.m. Alarm. First thought: check messages. Phone instantly in hand before you're fully awake. First dopamine dose hits your brain when you see red notifications. 15 likes on a photo. 3 new messages. 2 comments. Free dopamine. 7:15 a.m. Breakfast. Eggs sizzle in the pan, but your eyes are glued to the screen. Scrolling, scrolling. Pause to read a headline. Scrolling. Your brain has already accelerated to light speed, jumping between information fragments. Eggs burned. Whatever, you eat while still on your phone. 8:30 a.m. Commute. GPS guides you along your usual route. You haven't memorized streets in years. Why bother? There's Google Maps. The hippocampus, the brain region responsible for spatial orientation, slowly winds down its activity. When was the last time anyone used a paper map? London taxi drivers, whose hippocampus enlarges from constantly memorizing city routes, will soon become an endangered species. 10 a.m. Work meeting. You try to focus, but after every 3 to 4 minutes of attention, your hand reaches for your phone. Not because you're bored, not because you're expecting an important call, simply because your brain has been retrained to expect microscopic portions of pleasure from an endless newsfeed. 1 p.m. Lunch. You eat while watching short videos. 15 seconds each. A bit of laughter, a bit of horror, a bit of outrage, a bit of amazement. An emotional roller coaster. Your food becomes tasteless because your brain is busy processing videos. 3 p.m. Work. You need to write a report. You sit at your computer and open a document. 5 minutes pass. You still haven't written anything. Instead, you've opened 5 more browser tabs, checked email, scrolled through news, checked Telegram or WhatsApp, watched a video about cooking the perfect steak even though you're vegetarian, and now, finally, you return to the document. But in a moment, you're jumping to another tab again. And so the cycle continues. 7 p.m. Dinner. TV shows, news in the background. You scroll through your phone and try to maintain a conversation with your spouse. 3 information streams simultaneously. Your brain is overstressed yet simultaneously underengaged in meaningful, deep work. 10 p.m. You go to bed and pick up your phone just to check the alarm, and suddenly, it's 12:30 a.m. 2.5 hours evaporate like morning mist over a river. You'll go to sleep late, wake up tired, and everything will repeat tomorrow. Familiar? This is no longer the script of a dystopian movie. This is our everyday life. Martin Heidegger, one of the most influential philosophers of the 20th century, warned about the dangers of technology long before smartphones. He spoke of enframing, a way of thinking where everything in the world, including people, becomes a resource ready for use. Today we see his concerns coming true. Our attention has become a resource for which the world's largest tech companies compete. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, they're all competing for your eyeballs, for your time, for your ability to focus. Tristan Harris, a former Google ethicist who became one of the loudest critics of tech giants, compares modern apps to slot machines. They're designed to maximize the time you spend using them. And to do this, they exploit fundamental characteristics of how our brain works. Every time you refresh your feed, you're playing a kind of lottery. Sometimes you get interesting content, a reward, sometimes not. This is a classic variable reinforcement schedule, the most powerful method of forming dependency, discovered by psychologist B.F. Skinner in the mid-20th century. Algorithms know you better than you know yourself. They track your behavior, analyze what makes you stay in the app longer, and serve exactly that kind of content. If you linger on conspiracy theory videos, you'll get more conspiracy videos. If you're interested in scandals, the algorithm will feed you more scandalous content. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han talks about the burnout society, a state where people are exhausted not physically, but informationally and emotionally. We constantly switch between different tasks, apps, notifications, and our brain, designed for deep, focused work, is overloaded with superficial multitasking. But why does this happen? Why do we so easily succumb to digital temptations? It all begins with dopamine, a neurotransmitter responsible for motivation, pleasure, and learning. People used to think dopamine was the pleasure hormone. In reality, its role is more complex. Dopamine isn't responsible for pleasure itself, but for the anticipation of reward, for the desire to get something pleasant. When you see a red notification badge on an app, your brain releases dopamine in anticipation of possible social reward. When you refresh your feed, hoping to see something interesting, another dopamine hit. This mechanism, vital for our ancestors in finding food and continuing the species, is now exploited to keep your attention on a screen. Digital technologies leverage the same neurobiological system as gambling, drugs, and other addictive substances and behaviors. The only difference is in the intensity and speed of impact. Our prefrontal cortex, The brain region responsible for planning, decision-making, and impulse control gets depleted from constantly making micro-decisions. What to watch? What to click on? Should I respond to this message now? This cognitive state is called decision fatigue, and the more we exhaust this system, the weaker our self-control becomes. Neuroscientist Adam Gazzaley describes it this way: even when we're just sitting doing nothing, our brain is actively working in the so-called default mode. This activity is critically important for identity formation, emotional processing, and moral reasoning. But constant attention switching disrupts this process, not giving the brain time to recover and integrate experiences. Catherine Price, author of How to Break Up with Your Phone, compares modern apps to crack cocaine, a highly refined, concentrated version of what our brain naturally seeks: novelty, social connection, information. As with food, the problem isn't the product itself, but its excessive refinement and concentration, making it extremely attractive to our brain. What happens when our brain is constantly in attention-switching mode? First, our capacity for deep thinking suffers. Professor Gloria Mark from the University of California found that the average office worker can focus on one task for only 3 minutes and 5 seconds before switching to something else. And even these 3 minutes are broken into 20-second segments by constant email and message checking. Second, our memory weakens. When we know we can Google information at any moment, our brain doesn't make an effort to remember it. This phenomenon is called the Google effect, or digital amnesia. Third, our capacity for empathy decreases. Studies show that constant immersion in a digital environment reduces our ability to understand others' emotions. Empathy requires attention and presence, and we rarely give ourselves the opportunity to be fully present in interactions with others. Fourth, we lose the ability to be bored. Yet it's precisely in moments of boredom, when the brain isn't busy processing external stimuli, that the most creative ideas are born. Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, Archimedes. They all made their great discoveries during unstructured time when their brains could wander freely. And finally, we lose control over our own attention. And attention isn't just the ability to focus. It's a fundamental resource that defines the quality of our life. As psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi wrote, "We become what we pay attention to." If our attention is constantly defocused and fragmented, our personality becomes the same. But not all hope is lost. Our brain is plastic, and we can regain control over our digital lives. Here are some strategies to restore the ability for deep thinking and attention. Mindful digital detox. Dedicate 1 day a week, or at least a few hours, when you completely disconnect from digital devices. At first, it will be uncomfortable, even painful. You'll feel phantom vibration. It will seem like your phone is ringing even though it's not even nearby. This is normal. Your brain is going through digital withdrawal. It gets easier over time, and you'll rediscover the forgotten pleasure of fully immersing yourself in the real world. Deep work instead of multitasking. Psychologist and writer Cal Newport introduced the concept of deep work, a state of complete focus on a complex task without distractions. Practice this. Turn off notifications, close unnecessary tabs, set a timer for 25 to 90 minutes, depending on your current concentration level, and work on one task without switching to others. Restore basic cognitive skills. Return to paper books. Solve math problems in your head. Memorize phone numbers. Navigate an unfamiliar place without GPS. These aren't just exercises. They're restoring neural pathways that have begun to atrophy. Create digital rules. Our brain loves rituals and rules. Set clear boundaries. For example, don't use your phone during meals. Don't bring it to the bedroom. Don't check notifications during the first 30 minutes after waking up. Small but systematic changes can significantly alter your digital habits. Practice digital hygiene. Regularly delete apps you don't use. Unsubscribe from newsletters you don't read. Turn off notifications from non-essential apps. Simplify your digital space to reduce cognitive load. Attention meditation. Research shows that regular meditation practice strengthens neural pathways associated with attention and self-control. Even 10 minutes of daily meditation can significantly improve your ability to focus. Pomodoro technique with progression. Start with short sessions of focused work, 15 minutes, then 5 minutes break. Gradually increase the duration of work sessions to 25, 45, and even 90 minutes. It's like training a muscle, starting with light weights, then progressively heavier ones. Technology isn't the enemy, it's merely a tool. And like any tool, it can be used wisely or thoughtlessly. Philosopher Martin Buber spoke about two types of relationships, I-it and I-thou. In I-it relationships, the other is perceived as an object, a resource, something to use. In I-thou relationships, the other is perceived as a subject and equal with their own inner world. Now, we risk converting all our relationships to I-it mode. Relationships with other people, with information, with ourselves. We scroll through life like an Instagram feed, not staying on anything long enough to establish a deep connection. Philosopher Albert Camus wrote about the absurdity of human existence and the necessity to find meaning even in a meaningless world. Today, we face a new absurdity. We created technologies to save time and expand possibilities, but instead found ourselves in voluntary digital slavery, spending hours mindlessly consuming content. In his book, Flow, psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi describes a state when we're fully immersed in an activity, lose track of time, and feel deep satisfaction. This state is one of the highest manifestations of human happiness. But achieving flow requires focused attention for an extended period. Exactly what we're losing in the era of digital distractions. Psychologist Carl Jung talked about individuation, the process of becoming a whole personality by integrating different aspects of the psyche. This process requires deep self-knowledge, reflection, confrontation with one's own shadows. But how can we know ourselves if, at the slightest discomfort, we reach for our phones to escape from our own thoughts? I propose a simple experiment. Choose one day this week and live it with complete digital mindfulness. Each time you reach for your phone, stop and ask yourself, why am I doing this? What am I hoping to find? Is this really what I want to spend my attention on right now? Record your observations. How many times did you pick up your phone automatically without real need? What emotions preceded this gesture? Boredom? Anxiety, loneliness, discomfort? This isn't just an experiment in digital hygiene. It's a deep exploration of your own inner life, your habits, your escapes from reality. Imagine your attention is a spotlight, bright, powerful, capable of illuminating any corner of reality. But you have only one battery per day. You can direct this spotlight at one thing and see it with extraordinary clarity and detail. Or you can constantly switch it from one object to another, illuminating everything superficially and dissipating energy. The strange thing is that your choice affects not only the quality of your attention, but also the quality of the spotlight itself. The more often you concentrate it on one object, the brighter it becomes. The more you scatter it, the dimmer it gets. Where are you directing your attention spotlight, and what is it becoming because of your choice? We stand at a crossroads. One path leads to a world where technology truly expands our capabilities, frees up time for creativity, deep relationships, and self-development. The other, to a world where we become appendages to our devices, with atrophied cognitive abilities, incapable of either deep thinking or true presence in life. The choice is yours, and it begins with something small. The next time you automatically reach for your phone. John O'Donohue, Irish poet and philosopher, wrote, "Your attention is the purest form of love. What you attend to flourishes. What you turn away from withers. What will you pay attention to today? What will flourish from your presence? And what will wither from your absence?" Remember, this isn't ADHD. This isn't a genetic defect. This isn't just how things are now. This is a conscious choice we make every day. A choice between depth and superficiality, between authenticity and imitation, between freedom and comfortable slavery. You can't return the world to a pre-smartphone era, and you shouldn't. Technology is a powerful tool that can make our lives better. But for this to happen, we need to regain control over our attention. When was the last time you immersed yourself in a book for hours, forgetting about time? When was the last time you had a conversation during which you didn't check your phone? When was the last time you allowed yourself to just be? Without stimulation, without entertainment, without a constant stream of information. Perhaps the most important skill for the 21st century isn't programming, not soft skills, and not even critical thinking. It's the ability to manage your attention in a world designed to steal it. American biologist Edward O. Wilson said, "The real problem of humanity is that we have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. Our brain evolved in a world where information was a rare and valuable resource. Now we live in a world where information is infinite, and our attention has become the scarcest resource." Final thought: how we use technology today will determine who we become tomorrow. Not just individually, but as a species. We can turn into superficial, scattered beings incapable of deep thinking, seeking only immediate stimulation. Or we can use technology as a springboard for a new evolution of human consciousness, more focused, deeper, integrated. Philosopher Alan Watts once said, "You cannot catch technique with your bare hands. You must have technique for catching technique." Technology today has captured our attention. Now we need new technologies, both internal and external, to get it back. So let's ask ourselves, what happens if we don't change? What happens if we continue living on autopilot, giving our attention to whoever offers the brightest stimuli? What will happen to our brain, our culture, our future? And perhaps most importantly, what will happen to our humanity? Leave a comment answering. When was the last time you spent a day without digital devices? What did you feel? And what did you discover about yourself? If this topic resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, share this video with friends. Together, we can create a culture of more mindful technology use. Remember, your attention is your superpower. Guard it wisely,